gun laws. What would your party have to say about reform on the gun law?
Okay, what we need is definitely some reform. We've seen these mass shootings, and those are obviously not okay. The first step in reforming gun laws is, of course, stricter background checks. Now, we have seen that there's a very high approval rating of background checks. It's a bipartisan issue. Though we understand those who are more conservative don't want their guns to be taken away, they are okay with making sure that the right people have these guns. We saw about a 92% approval rating nationwide, so when we take that into terms of Boise State, we should see a similar approval rating, and therefore background checks are our first step in reforming gun laws.
Does any other candidate on the party have anything to say regarding gun law?
I think one further thing that we could do is education. Right now, the only way to change how guns are viewed in society is to not take guns away or pass any laws that prohibit them, but to change the ideology and the mindset that we have towards them. And the only way to do that is to begin at the roots, which is education about guns.
Does anybody have any comments on on a policy to reduce the size of magazines for assault rifles? Quote. Nothing.
Yeah, all right, let's keep it going.
All right, how do you feel about Obama's listening in on our phone calls, and how do you feel about what is the government spying, quote unquote, on Americans' personal conversations that's been going around?
All right, Americans definitely have a right to privacy, whether that's in their phone conversations or in the shower. I like having that curtain between me and the other Boise Staters for sure. Make sure blood is not exchanged, but I definitely think that is a gross overreach. I don't think Obama should be listening in on every American's phone conversations. However, we also have to understand that that's kind of some federal overreach, and it's very hard for the state to crack down on that.
All right, anybody else?
However, I believe that in any way that the state can show its authority on this matter, and that I can support the governor as Attorney General, then I certainly will. I have actually studied right to privacy extensively over the last year. I've been writing a 15-page research paper on it. So I know quite a bit on the matter, and I look forward to supporting the governor in this way.
We'll definitely try to take steps to solve the problem, and I'll definitely put my Attorney General on it.
All right. Good. Next question.
Well, education today is not as good as other countries around the world. What are you going to do to improve it?
All right, well, education is actually one of the cornerstones of my platform. I definitely think education is important. It's not only helping teach our young children and giving them better futures, but it's giving them a better economic future because it's an investment. We can look at it in terms of economics and see that the money we put in now to education will come back to us tenfold. It will increase exponentially. So as far as education, I'm definitely in support of getting more money to schools who need it. Currently, under No Child Left Behind, we see a lot of giving those schools that excel on test scores and things a lot more funding, and penalizing those schools who are doing poorly on standardized tests. That's not acceptable. We can't just be making the good schools better until we reach the maximum capacity and making the worst schools worse. What we have to do is kind of at some point cut off the good schools, make sure they're properly funding, make sure they continue to excel, because that's great, but we need to make sure that these poorer schools, these schools that aren't performing as well, are getting the funding so that they can reform, so that they can restructure, and so that they can do a better job of teaching. Furthermore, as far as tenure, I believe we need some sort of tenure reform, because it's a way that bad teachers get to keep their jobs, which isn't okay. And when we kind of reduce and reform tenure, what we can see is we'll have a little extra money, and that money, I believe, should be put forth towards giving teachers higher salaries. So that way we're letting those bad teachers go, we're not keeping them in their jobs, and those good teachers who we all love, who we all learn a lot from, they're getting to keep their jobs as well as getting bonuses and making more money, making sure they're happy and motivated and just happy to see us every day and work hard for it.
Who else have anything else to add?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, whenever you look at the global achievement gap and whatever you're talking about, like Finland, of course, is ahead of us, things of that sort. Like the biggest differences that separate us from places like Finland are a lot of the fact that Finland actually invests within their teachers. A lot of their teachers come from the top third of their class, from their graduating class in college. Meanwhile, here we have them come from like the middle third. clearly investing in our teachers, as our governor stated, is probably something we should definitely do, because I mean, people that are good at chemistry become chemists. Not many of them actually want to become teachers. So we need to make sure that we create a better incentive for people that know their subject to actually become teachers.
Earlier, the governor said, the governor running for office said that education actually helps our economy. And to go a little bit deeper on that point, if we can increase our education, that brings in bigger businesses that will want to actually provide a lot of jobs in Kansas, which not only puts more money in the staters' pockets, but our pockets as well. It increases state funds and it increases Kansas funds. So that's going to really help us if we can really increase our education.
And
It's kind of been a hot topic now that the keynote speaker was announced. Do you and your party, do you have any opinions or comments on same-sex marriage?
I am definitely for the recognition of same-sex marriages. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't recognize them, especially with that video, with that speech from Zach Walls. It definitely shows us that we have nothing to lose when we're recognizing this group of people. This group of people can only contribute benefits to our nation.
Yeah, people call it they say it's just a legal issue, like with whether or not they're being recognized, but it's really a rights issue. They're currently being denied a right that the population is entitled to have, so we feel it's our obligation to give them that right.
As well as in other states other than Kansas that have approved same-sex marriage, the most successful way that they found to do this is actually through the court system, getting the the Supreme Court of the state to rule with same-sex marriage. And so I look forward to working with the governor to get this done.
Next question.
No question?
Okay. Sorry, one second. Let me get the recording thing going. Regarding so-called Obamacare, does the Nationalist Party have anything to say regarding any possible reforms regarding this federal health care?
As far as my opinion on healthcare, I do believe that healthcare is important. We need to make sure that people have access to to those in the medical field. And one of those important things is especially those under the age of 18 need to be given the access to healthcare. They need to have access. Just because a 5-year-old's mother can't pay for his doctor visits doesn't mean he shouldn't have it. He has that right. As an American, we need to make that possible. Furthermore, we can see that actually providing healthcare in the first place will actually be economically beneficial, because what we see in the current system is we see poor people have a cough or something, and then they decide not to go to the doctor because it's expensive, because they don't have any way to pay for it. So what happens is a while down the road, a month, a year, they contract some sort of a disease, and it just gets worse and worse until finally they can't breathe, and so they have to go to the ER, and that incurs enormous costs for the government. So it's really, really important that we stress preventative care.
Any other comments from the rest of the Nationalist Party regarding Obamacare? Thank you.
Okay, 2 more quick questions here. We'd like, before you leave us, can you just give us a quick overview of your platform, what you think you're really standing on as a candidate, what you're really striving for?
Yeah, for sure. Earlier candidates actually stood on a table, but that's not my platform. But basically the 3 things I'm going to stress are alternative energy, education, and business growth. And I do want to do as many things as possible when I'm in office. Those are the 3 kind of cornerstones of the 3 legs of my table. And that's what I'm going to stress. As I said, alternative energy, very, very valuable. We'll see if we invest in that infrastructure. We'll see a lot of private investment. We'll see a lot of high-skilled, high-paying jobs, and we'll see a lot more energy. That means Kansas can get back to work, reduce the unemployment. We'll see all that energy fueling stronger Kansas. Education, I already kind of answered some questions about. We think that's very important for the future. Those 2 things kind of combine and will, in fact, help on the business side of things. As I said, education is going to increase economic improvements. And as far as business, we talk about tax breaks for businesses because we'll see that that means they hire more people, they're making more money is injected back into our economy, and we don't actually lose money when we make tax breaks because businesses start being more profitable, and even though they are paying a smaller percentage, because they're making more, that money's still coming back to us.
Certainly. Anybody else have anything to add, or cover it pretty well? All right, and we just wanted, do you have a quote or some words of wisdom that you can leave with any more boy staters or teenagers that watch this video?
Well, though I don't really approve of Chief Keef, I know a lot of teenagers out there are doing it for Sosa. Well, I just like to say I'm here to do it for Kansas. So.
Great. It's good to have you guys.
Thank you very much.
Next party. Natty. I voted for the red.